The year was 1938, when Jerry Siegel and Joel Shuster came up with the idea for Superman. Starting as a supervillain in one of their stories, Superman later became the forefront superhero for their action comic series. But it wasn't long before Carl Burgess created his android superhero, the Human Torch, who would star in Marvel Comics #1 in 1939. Now, I don't have to tell you that comic books and superheroes became a very popular thing. And it wasn't long before their prominence rose to the big screen. They were adapted into Saturday movie serials and started with The Adventures of Captain Marvel in 1941, with Batman, the Phantom, Captain America, and Superman following close behind. But unfortunately, with Saturday serials and comic books falling out of grace for most people, superhero movies were no longer shown, with the exception of a made-for-theater but adapted to TV series called Adventures of Superman, starring George Reeves. But luckily in the 60s there was a newfound need for superheroes, and Batman the television series came to be. But shortly after, there was the Batman movie in 1966, starring Adam West and Burt Ward. And superhero movies would live along throughout the decades, with Superman in the 1970s, Batman in the 80s, the failed 90s Marvel movies, and now in the new millennium, the successful Marvel movies. And it's all culminated into one movie. One movie that I can only describe is better than good, better than great, better than awesome, better than every superhero movie ever. And that movie, shown on May 4th, 2012, was called The Avengers. I don't think at this point in the review it's any secret that I loved this movie, but that doesn't even really start to describe how good this was. I had doubts coming into it. Of course, with there being so many big stars, so many different superheroes, so many different elements to get involved, so many different personalities to clash.
No offense, but I don't play well with others.
I mean, there were a lot of things that could have gone wrong with this movie. So let me go ahead and start with what I thought was going to go wrong and ended up being great. First and foremost, the biggest problem I thought I was going to have with this movie was the replacement of Edward Norton. Now, remembering back to the 2003 Hulk movie starring Eric Bana, which was just terrible. First they changed Hulk's powers, it was a fucking shame of a movie. I was understandably scared going into The Incredible Hulk. But that movie blew my mind. So when Edward Norton, who pulled off this great, what I'm going to call remake, because it's pretty much like they said, oh crap, we made this terrible movie, let's just go ahead and remake it. Well, forget 2003 happened. With Edward Norton doing such a good job, and then getting kicked off the bill for Avengers, I was pissed. I was very happily surprised with Mark Ruffalo.
Thanks.
Really good, I liked it. He very easily kept up with the banter with everyone else, especially Robert Downey Jr. The next thing I was worried about was Hawkeye. Now, of course, he was on all the posters and the trailers and stuff like that, but I was afraid that he was going to be shoved to the back with Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk, Nick Fury. I really did not see Hawkeye being a big part of this movie. But surprisingly enough, he is a very prominent character. And the biggest thing I thought was going to be wrong with this movie, too many superheroes. Now, of course it works in the comics, but I mean, that's where it started. And if anyone's going to have mastered the art of shoving a bunch of superheroes into a situation, it's gotta be DC and Marvel, you know? So I really thought that it might pose a problem. Things might not clash well, you know? They might skip over certain elements that are required to make certain things work, but they didn't. I can't find a single flaw with this movie. Now, from this point on, there might be spoilers. So, I did warn you. Now, one thing I thought I had a problem with, which obviously came up during the watching of said movie, how early Loki becomes a part of the movie. And when you find out who he's working with, and once things take their course and the wheels start moving, which doesn't take long, you really realize that it was one of the only ways they could have brought him in was very early. And two, that, you know, it was not as bad as you thought at first. At least as bad as I thought at first. So, and that was my one point in the movie where I thought I had a problem, but it quickly went away. This movie was just intense. I mean, just from the intro, I mean, I thought the movie had gotten started. I thought we weren't going to see a title because, you know, just how the movie gets started and just the whole first couple, you know, 5 minutes of the movie, just awesome. Awesome fucking intro. And then boom, the fucking Avengers hits the screen and wow. I mean, the first thing I said was, that's a hell of an intro. It's not like every second of this movie is explosions and witty banter. I mean, there are moments, you know, where they have to, you know, they're standing around, they're talking, they're figuring out what's going on. You know, but that's necessary. And I mean, if you're a real movie fan and not just some, like, brain-dead moron who's like, there's so many boobs and explosions. So, I mean, you'll like it. I mean, it won't matter and it'll be interesting to you. I just offended so many people there. But for a 2.5-hour movie, which I believe it's about 2.5 hours, it was just great. I mean, everything worked. All the characters worked. My favorite stuff is between Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. Just their back and forth is just awesome.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that away, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
And there are so many comedy bits in this movie also, with all the characters. I mean, there's just... It's got everything you could want from a movie. Going into this movie, the hype was the best superhero movie of all time. The best movie of the year so far. One of the best movies in the past 5 or 6 years. And I feel it's really lived up to all of it. It just lived up to all of my expectations and more. I saw things I was hoping to see. I saw things I didn't think I was going to see. I laughed a lot. I mean, I was amazed a lot. You know, and there was one point in the movie, and I know it's in the trailers, where they're all in a circle, you know, and the camera pans around them. And just the events that led up to that shot, and the events that happened shortly after, with that in the middle, you know, it was just a whole big moment where I was so happy, and I don't give a shit what anyone says. I was so happy, I almost cried. Now, there are two last things I want to do in this review before I finish. And one, I want to talk about Joss Whedon. I didn't do a lot of research going into this movie for a couple reasons. One of those reasons being, back in the day, you know, there wasn't really a lot known about the movie-making process. And I really feel we've kind of bastardized the movie-making process by, you know, tweeting all these details and Facebooking everything. I mean, I've known about Men in Black 3 for almost 2 years now. But I really do feel like there's not a lot left up to mystery. So what I've been trying to do is separate myself from the movie-making process. I mean, just so I can be more surprised going into a movie. That being said, I didn't do a lot of research on this movie, to the extent of not even knowing who's directing it. But Joss Whedon pulled this off so gloriously that, I mean, I will trust anything that man touches after this point. Some might argue I should have had that opinion already, but, I mean, more importantly, I've come to that opinion. And I don't care if the man does a Care Bears movie. I'll sit in the theater through the whole thing. Now, the second thing I want to say is, I want to give a little piece of advice. 2 pieces, really, and they're both really the same thing. As soon as the credits hit, and, you know, it's saying directed by Joss Whedon, or filmed by Joss Whedon, you know, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, all that stuff, and it's got the, you know, intricate, interesting background, stick around through that. There's something that happens right after that that you really, really want to see. And then the scrolling credits will hit. Stick around through those. because there's something that's hilarious. If you really want to get everything out of the movie, everything out of the theater experience that you can, and you love the comedy in this movie, stick around through the scrolling credits, because there's a hilarious bit at the end of that. This is my Avengers review. I do apologize if it feels like it's lacking in some information. And the only reason it really is because I can't say too much about this movie and the things that really happen in it that won't spoil things. I mean, this movie needs to be experienced as a whole. And if you've unfortunately consistently looked up facts about what's going to happen in the movie, or illegally downloading it from the premiere cam that came out, I feel sorry for you, because this movie is not going to be as effective to you as it was to me or other people who went into it unwittingly. But, you know, I really can't say too much about this without ruining the experience for you. All I can say is that good on you, Joss Whedon. Great work to all the actors. Funny stuff, action-packed stuff, interesting stuff. Just a great movie. Go see it. I'm not even saying if you like superhero movies, go see it. I'm not saying if you like action movies, go see it. I'm saying go see it. It's really worth it. I saw it in 2D. You know, some might argue 3D is better, whatever. I saw it in 2D because I didn't really care about the 3D. I really don't care about 3D so much on the big screen right now because they're not using it right. But go see it. 3D, 2D, doesn't matter. It's worth the money. Wherever you are. For me, I paid $7.75 for my ticket. So, and I took my girlfriend and my son to go see it. So, you know, I spent about $22 to go see this movie, and I would gladly pay that again just to go see it myself. So, go see this movie. I can't wait for Iron Man 3. Can't wait for, you know, the next Captain America. Can't wait for the Avengers sequel. We know it's coming. Go see the movie. You're gonna love it. As always, thank you for watching. This has sort of been my review, and I will see you guys next time.
How desperate are you? And you call on such lost creatures to defend you.
You have made me very desperate.
We're not a team. We're a time bomb.
This is nothing we were ever trained for.
Guys, I'm bringing the party to you.